Brains. Brains. Num 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 num.
This is both a video response and a review. I'm wanting to talk about the 2011 The Thing prequel, but the Cinephiles recently did a video where they compared the 2011 film with John Carpenter's 1982 version. And they did a really great job. And if you want to check out that video, go and check out the Cinephiles channel. You will see the link down below. Go and check that out. So, what I want to do is I want to respond to some of the things that were said by the Cinephiles about this film. I also want to kind of review it myself, and I want to talk about the franchise in of itself, because it's one of my favourite franchises. I mean, I don't know if you really call it a franchise, but the story elements, the core of the story, really is what I love about The Thing. So originally it was a 1938 novella by a writer called John W. Campbell, and it was called Who Goes There? The story is a science fiction piece about a research station in Antarctica where the people who are doing research there find an alien ship embedded in the ice, which has obviously been there for millions of years. They also find the body of an alien creature, so they take the alien creature back to their base camp and they allow it to thaw. At the same time, it's winter and they can't actually leave the base. They can't actually leave the area at all. So they're stuck there while they're thawing out this alien creature, and they're going to investigate to see what it is, because it's the find of the century. And the crux of this story is that the alien creature is still alive, and it has this ability to assimilate. We're not talking about the Borg here, but it has the ability to attack and absorb life forms, humans, animals, and then shapeshift to have the characteristics and attributes of whatever it is that it's absorbed. So it kind of replicates it. So when it comes to human beings, this means that it replicates not just their appearance, but their memories, their personality, and it's almost impossible to tell who is the thing and who is not. And that's where the whole paranoia aspect of the story comes from. You have these men in this research base, stuck in the remotest of remote environments, and they're all paranoid of one another because they don't know who is this alien creature and who is not. So that was the 1938 story, Who Goes There. In 1951, we got a film version of it called The Thing from Another World. This was largely headed by Howard Hawks. I need to stop doing this all the way through my review. It was largely headed up by Howard Hawks. It was directed by Christian Nyby, and it's one of my favourite films. But I did it with this hand. It's one of my favourite films. It's a fantastic science fiction movie. But in this story, what they did is they actually took a lot of the elements out of Who Goes There. They took the whole paranoia aspect. They took the fact that this creature can assimilate and copy people. They took that entirely out of the story. So what instead we were left with in The Thing from Another World was a creature that was almost like Frankenstein's monster. It was this sort of huge brute of a creature. That's the sort of creature that we got in The Thing from Another World. But it was a creature that I think was still frightening. I love the aspect that they bring in. It's a group of soldiers that come to this research base and they recover the alien creature and thaw it, and then it runs rampant around this research base. I love the fact that you've got this playoff between the military and the scientists who want to communicate with this creature, but the military just want to confront it and kill it or capture it. And I think in general it's just a fantastic film. We do get some elements of the idea of it being a sort of plant-like creature and stuff like that, but it's not really expanded upon too much in the movie. But definitely go and check out the 1951 version. So fast forward more than 30 years later, and we get the 1982 John Carpenter version, which was just called The Thing. This was inspired by Carpenter's love for the original film, the 1951 version. He wanted to make another version of it. So it's called The Thing, but it actually draws more from the novella than it does from the original film. It's all about those characters in that remote situation, and the creature does indeed have this ability to imitate people, and it's all about who's the thing and who isn't. And I think John Carpenter still loves the 1951 version, and there are little homages, tributes to the original film. In fact, there's kind of almost the idea in the film that it's almost like a sort of pseudo sequel where you have the block of ice where the alien creature's been thawed out. It's kind of reminiscent of the original film, and there's shots in the film of a research group standing around the outline of the spacecraft and things like that, which are all very reminiscent of the original film, and I'm sure that was deliberate, but it is more to do with the sort of who goes there aspect of the story. It is widely regarded as a masterpiece. I've said before that John Carpenter's The Thing I hold up in high esteem. I think it's the probably the only film within the science fiction horror genre that can claim to equal Alien in terms of atmosphere. And I hold Alien up as a masterpiece. I think The Thing is a masterpiece, but for different reasons. And it is certainly Carpenter's best made film. I enjoy Big Trouble in Little China probably the most out of Carpenter's films, but if you were to choose a best made out of Carpenter's movies, it would be The Thing. Obviously you've got Halloween, Escape from New York, Prince of Darkness, which I really love. But anyway, so fast forward again, 2011, and we get The Thing prequel. The Thing prequel, it's just called The Thing, which I didn't really understand or agree with. You know, you're making another film in the series, but you're just calling it the same thing as the original film. Maybe it would have been. Maybe they tried to come up with an alternative name and they couldn't come up with anything. But this is where it sort of blurs the lines as to whether it's a prequel or an actual remake. So the whole idea of the prequel is that it follows the people who originally discovered the alien before the group of Americans get there in John Carpenter's The Thing. Because in John Carpenter's The Thing, they go to this nearby Norwegian base and it's been decimated by the creature, and they find, you know, some people have committed suicide. They find charred remains with two heads of this monstrous creature, and this is what the story's about. It's about the Norwegian camp. Now the problem with that is, you know how it ends really. But anyway, the guys at the Cinephiles didn't like this film at all, and I have to say, my friends that have watched this film didn't like it either. I went into it thinking I want to dislike this film really, which you shouldn't really think when you go see a film, but I was very, very sceptical of it. And I'm going to be controversial here and say that I disagree. I actually think it's a pretty good film, and I think, like Carpenter's original 1982 movie, it's going to be reevaluated as time goes on. It's not a masterpiece. It's not even a great film. I think it's a good film. I think it's decent. I think it's better than most of the remakes and sequels that are out there. I think that, first of all, I think it's well made, right? And that instantly elevates it above most of the dross that you get in terms of like remakes and reboots and stuff like that. It is well made. It's well shot. I think all the actors are really good in it. I think it's well directed. I think the production design, I think they really capture, Ed said this on the Cinephiles, that it captured the tone of the original film. I think it absolutely did. So I think in those terms, from an aesthetic point of view, it's a good companion piece to the original film. It does feel like it would be part of that world in a lot of ways. I think it does have problems. The main thing that people seem to mention is the fact that it's very reliant upon CG, and one of the big, most important, most impressive things about even today, the 1982 film, is that Rob Bottin's effects, and Stan Winston did some as well, the animatronics, the creature designs, all of that are really, really fantastic. And this was pre-CG, and I think Eric said in the Cinephile said it was the best example of, or best argument for practical effect computer generated images, and I totally agree. The effects in the original Thing really put the prequel's effects to shame. I think the practical effects always tend to work better when they're well crafted because it's a real thing, no pun intended, but it's a real object, it's there, the director can shoot it the way that he wants to shoot it, and I think CG takes people out of the film. There's no sense of jeopardy really with CG because it just doesn't feel quite real. Even though it can look sometimes visually more impressive, it doesn't feel real, it's not visceral. I think that's what's missing from most CG. CG is a great tool if it's something that you absolutely can't do otherwise, but if you can do it physically because it will always tend to work better if you have the right craftsmen working on the movie. What's interesting is that, and I'll do a link to this video below, there's actually an effects reel for the effects work that was done for the Thing prequel. And this is the thing that blows my mind. They actually did the effects practically, and then they rotoscoped over them with CG, right? And that is so sad because in the video that I'll link below, the effects look great. They look really great. It looks like they did a brilliant job. So all that stuff's been shot. So I do hope that eventually we see a version of the Thing prequel which has the practical effects in place. I really would like to see that. Or, I mean, maybe they have to use some CG for certain aspects because they haven't shot it yet, but they haven't shot all of it with that. But I think that to see mostly practical effects would be really great. Even interesting, if you watch the original The Thing, there are some moments where they use stop motion and it does jar with the rest of the film. So even the original The Thing doesn't do everything with animatronics, but I think absolutely the CG. The problem with this is the CG is actually really patchy. There are moments where the CG is actually quite good. As much as people have slaughtered it for the CG, there are moments where it was good. I have a feeling those moments are moments where what they did is they left bits of the practical effect in and they elaborated on them with the CG and built up from a real world thing. And I think that perhaps is why you've got some sections of, but some sections the CG work looks really good. Other times it looks really poor. There was some composite shots where with digital matte paintings and things like that I actually thought were really poor. I couldn't believe that was in this film in 2011, but I think the reason for that probably is that the film was rushed. Now, Eric said this is a film that has been obviously meddled with, and that is the big thing here with the prequel. It has obviously been meddled with. The release date was set back, and I think it was public knowledge that they were doing reshoots and all sorts of things to try and play catch up, change the script. And I've read some of the ideas that were in the original script that apparently have been shot, and I genuinely believe this. There must be a really great cut of this film out there with the practical effects and a lot of the dramatic elements. Like, for example, there's a character, I don't want to ruin this for you, but well, there's a character at the very beginning of John Carpenter's The Thing who blows himself up because he drops a grenade. Now, he is in the prequel, and there were elements within the script and they were shot where that character was shown to be very clumsy, and because there's one thing in John Carpenter's The Thing that doesn't sit with me very well, the way the guy drops the grenade. It's a bit silly, it's a bit comical, it's a bit of a kind of, how are we going to blow this helicopter up? Well, let's have a guy sort of go like that and throw a grenade and it'll drop behind him. It's a little bit comical to me. As much as I adore that film, it's one thing that didn't really sit with me very well. But in the original cut, the prequel, apparently they built up the fact that this guy's really clumsy, so it kind of explains that in a sort of retro active way, and I would have liked to have seen that. I think as well that I think especially the ending with the spaceship, I think there's a lot of stuff there that feels very sort of Hollywood. There are a lot of Hollywood tropes that have been introduced, which really goes against That's one of the biggest criticisms I've got, but it really goes against the feel or vibe of John Carpenter's film, because it sort of avoids cliches, but you have cliches in the prequel. But apart from that, I think, and there are a few logical issues with the prequel. There are some things which don't entirely make sense. I think there are probably a couple of things even in Carpenter's film which perhaps on a logical level don't entirely make sense, but like the whole thing actually when Blair became the creature and all that, and how long he was building that spaceship and all that out of stuff in his shed, But anyway, that aside, yes, there are some logical problems with the prequel, but like I say, I think it's a solid film. I think it is something that will be reevaluated as time goes on. If you haven't watched it, I would check it out. I mean, one thing that I do like about it is that it doesn't attempt to explain certain things about the thing which would ruin or have an impact on John Carpenter's film. I like that fact. I like the fact that you're not watching this movie and it's not trying to explain certain things, that because often when sequels or prequels try to add things to the mythos, it often, not always, but it often unravels part of the original film, and the prequel doesn't do that. We don't learn anything else about the thing. It would be nice to have had some conjecture about it. I think that's one of the problems with the movie as well, is that there's not really there's no dialogue about this creature and what it might be, and that's one of the greatest bits in Carpenter's film, when they're sort of trying to discuss what this thing is. But I think it's a shame, because I think there's a much better film buried in there somewhere. I think hopefully we'll get that cut at some point. But yeah, I would disagree with a lot of what people have been saying in terms of tearing it apart. It's much better than people are giving it credit for. So go and check that out. That's The Thing prequel. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And go and check out the Cinephiles. I'll leave a link to their video below, and I'll leave a link to the practical effects work on The Thing. I talked about all the things that I should also say as well. There's a computer game for the PC and PlayStation 2 from 2002, I think it is, and it acts as a kind of sequel, and it was endorsed by John Carpenter, bizarrely. He's actually even in the game. So that's actually an excellent game. It's really good. It explains what happens after the original film, which, because the ambiguous ending of the original movie, maybe you don't want that, but that's worth checking out as well. And there's a radio play as well that the BBC made. I think that's all things The Thing that I've discussed. So I'm sorry for prattling on again, but yeah, go check out the Cinephiles video. They did a much better job than I did. Bye for now. I haven't even switched it off, have I tried to be all cool there and say bye for now, and then switch off, and I managed to miss the off switch. Idiot.